Today I'm going to be talking about the Ozito 18V Jigsaw and then demonstrating its use, and so then you can decide whether this cost-effective tool is right for you. And so, first up, the power supply. Just like everything else in the Ozito range, it does run from these 18V batteries. So the same battery that goes into the Ozito lawnmower or the Ozito drills also goes in to the Ozito Jigsaw. And so what I'm going to do today is, first up, I'm going to demonstrate all the features on this and how you can change all the settings so you can get the optimal efficiency for your project. And then I'll demonstrate this jigsaw actually in use, and so you can see how effective it is and whether it's good enough for whatever you're trying to do. And so with that, let's begin. Now, given that I'm moving things around with the blade, it's always a good idea to take the battery out, so that way, even if I do accidentally press the safety and the trigger at the same time, I'm not going to rip my hands open. And so, the first thing you want to be able to do is to be able to get the saw blade on and off. And so with this, it's very similar to a reciprocating saw, where you see this little collar here. And in order to get the blade in, all you need to do is just press the collar in, slide the blade in here, like so, let it sit, and then release the collar. And it should be in front of this little wheel here, although it'd be pretty hard to get behind it anyway. And then you're pretty much good to go. Now, one thing that's a little bit unnerving about this is that unlike the battery, there isn't a very satisfying click to know that you've got it exactly in the right place. But as you can see, it's pretty sturdy in there, and we're good to go. If you need to replace this blade, it's called a T-shank. And so it doesn't need to be an Ozito blade, it can be any T-shank blade that you can find in the tool section of your hardware shop. And you can get wood and metal cutting variants of this type of blade. And so with that being done, you can put the safety guard back down, and now the angle for this blade. What this setting does is that it moves this little wheel back and forth, and so you can get a different cutting angle for the jigsaw blade. And why do we have the choice of going on to different angles? Well, this front setting here, it says exact. And so as common sense would apply here, this is ideal if you're doing a cut where you want the cut to be very neat and precise. But the downside about doing this angle though is that you're going to have to use a little bit more elbow power to push through. However, on the opposite extreme, you'll have a very messy cut, but it will require very little elbow power. And so let's just say that you got some bits of scrap wood and they're too big for your wheelie bin, and you just need to cut them down so they fit in your bin. Well then, go to this setting. But if you're cutting a piece that's going to end up on your final project, you want it on this setting. And there's also two middle settings. It's basically a hybrid version of those two extremes. And so that's the front angle of the blade. But there's also another way that you can change the angle of your cut. And so here you'll notice a bit of a mechanism which you can release, and this changes the angle of the footing. I don't really need to explain too much about what this does and how it works. That's an option for you as well. And as far as guiding your cut, we do have a couple of tools here. So here you have a little arrow which is pointing to your cut. So if you keep that little arrow to the line that you've drawn earlier, well then you should be able to follow that along. And there are other methods too, where you can put in a little mini ruler and slides into these two little slots here, and then that can keep you parallel to the edge of a piece of wood that you're cutting as well. Now, another feature this has is that you can use this in partnership with an Ozito vacuum cleaner, where the nozzle plugs into here, and it vacuums up all the sawdust as soon as you cut it. Now, this isn't only for cosmetic or neat reasons, as sawdust is actually a very dangerous thing to be inhaling, because many of the woods that we use nowadays have many chemicals in them that we do not want to be inhaling via sawdust. So chemicals that are designed to kill termites, and also just glues that sort of hold all the bits of wood together. So even if you don't actually put a vacuum attachment in here, I just make sure that you're being mindful not to breathe in the sawdust, and so whether you vacuum it as soon as after using it with another vacuum cleaner, or whether you wear a P2 mask, it doesn't really matter, just as long as you're not inhaling it, everything will be fine. And now I'll demonstrate some features on this saw, which can only really be demonstrated when the battery is connected. And so, given that I'm sort of maneuvering this around, I don't want to be accidentally chopping my fingers off. So just for one more time, I'll just put this collar down. So collar down, saw blade off. battery back on. Now to turn this on, you have a safety switch. So the safety switch, you only need to press it and then press the trigger. And you can release the safety after you've pressed the trigger. And you'll notice it's on both sides. The reason being for this is that it wants to be friendly for both left-handed and right-handed operators. The way it works is just you press, and then trigger. Now another feature you may have noticed about this is that you have a little LED light to illuminate whatever you're cutting as well. And this LED light comes on when you're using it. And also note that you can change the speed or the throttle of how this is cutting. So you can go to a high speed, or you can go to a slow speed. And so now with all of that out of the way, we can now actually get to demonstrating this saw in action. So let's get to it.